What are you doing?
Well, the nice lady on social media said I could use plastic wrap to protect my clothes.
Or you could be eco friendly and wear an apron. First, no shade is intended towards this creator. She understood her assignment and came up with creative ways to use the brand's product. But when I saw the video on another app a few weeks ago and saw the comments and stitches and realized how many people don't even own aprons, I knew how I wanted to approach this video about sewing a vintage inspired apron, focusing on how our grandmothers were naturally sustainable before we even became aware of the need to engage in eco-friendly practices. So, if you're like me and tired of constantly ruining your clothes while cooking or cleaning around the house, and you want to reduce your environmental impact while still looking stylish and put together, join me for this DIY project for a 1940s style apron. Not only is this apron a chic and retro addition to your kitchen or cleaning routine, it's also a sustainable way to protect your clothing from spills and stains and wear and tear. By utilizing Grandma's hack for wearing an apron instead of using disposable or single use alternatives, such as the suggestion of using a certain plastic wrap, you'll be reducing your carbon footprint and investing in a durable and practical accessory that will last for years to come. And the bonus is that you won't have to be buying new clothes all the time to replace your ruined clothes, which means more money to either save or spend on other things. So let's grab some vintage inspired fabric, fire up your sewing machine, and let's create a sustainable and stylish retro apron that you can use and love for years to come. Be sure to watch until the end to see the final reveal and learn how to get the pocket pattern substitution that I created for this project. For this apron, I chose Wearing History's 1940s apron E pattern that I bought on Etsy, downloaded, and printed out in tiles. The link to it will be in the description. The part that appealed to me the most about this vintage pattern was that the neck straps and the bottom of the apron have scalloped edges. I thought they were cute and they're really indicative of the 1940s era. Also, most of the apron, the skirt piece and the front panel is cut from one piece on the bias, so there's fewer pattern pieces. I know a lot of people like half aprons, but I need the coverage. Yeah, we'll say that. I need the coverage of a full apron to protect my clothes. A lot of modern patterns lean toward the pinafore aprons look. While a frilly apron is cute, I really like the practicality of this apron. During the 1940s, because of war shortages, rural women made their aprons from flour sacks. So the flour would come in these sacks that were made from cotton in colorful prints that could be used for sewing projects, such as clothing, as an incentive to buy that particular brand. Women would save up the fabric from multiple sacks until they had enough to make the project. Since they were repurposing the feed sack fabric, you could say that they were engaging in sustainable living before we even called it that. So, in a nod toward that tradition, I visited my local quilt shop and decided that the best fabric for my apron project should have a nostalgic feel to it. With the help of the shop owner, we pulled a bunch of fabric choices, and I decided on the green fabric with an all-over pattern of little flowers. I chose to make the bias tape in purple fabric to bring out the purple in the little flowers. I could have used pre-made bias binding, but I think using the printed fabric really elevates the look quite a bit, while also acknowledging the fact that a retro apron would also have the binding made from the flour sack fabric. About a yard of the fabric was enough to make more than enough half-inch wide double-folded bias tape. Wearing History suggests making a mock-up since vintage sizing and techniques are very different than how a modern apron would fit. Using less expensive fabric that was on sale from a national chain that will not be named, I made an apron without making any adjustments to the pattern. The link to that video will be above and in the description area. Making the wearable muslin was extremely helpful. I learned that I needed to add 2 inches to each side of the apron front for a total of 4 inches so that the apron skirt wraps around to the back. I also needed to add 4 inches to the bib part of the pattern so that the waist of the apron would sit at my waist and not right below my bountiful bust. I also added 4 inches to the shoulder straps since they run alongside the entire bib area and added a couple of inches to the ties. The original pattern has heart-shaped front pockets, and they're cute, but I need my apron pockets to be big and utilitarian because I carry things around in them. So I drafted a new pocket pattern with the scallop turned down to match the straps and bottom edge. At first, I was planning on making the pocket out of the same fabric as the binding fabric, but that turned out to be too harsh looking. So the pocket fabric is the same as the rest of the apron. One thing I should note, if you make the pattern using the bias binding technique, you will be trimming the seam allowance in a couple of places before you cut out the pattern in the apron fabric. Just look at the instructions in step 1 and the corresponding illustration. Since I'm reusing the pattern for this project, you won't see me cutting those pieces in this video. Before I started sewing everything together, I made the bias tape. To me, this apron project is a perfect beginner sewing project to learn how to work with bias tape, and really, it is helping me relearn how to work with bias tape. It shouldn't be your very first project, but the hardest part of this project is making and applying the bias binding. After cutting the fabric on the bias, I sewed the strips together to create one very long strip. Then I used this very handy bias tape maker to fold and press the bias tape. I have to say that this gizmo made a huge difference. For my previous apron, I did the old-fashioned fold and press method, and my fingers kept getting burned by the steam from the iron. My local stores have not had it in stock for a very long time, so I ended up having to buy it from Amazon. So I'll put the link below for you in case you can't find it. The first thing you're going to do is sew the pocket. If you're using my pocket, you'll sew it with the wrong sides facing each other instead of the usual right sides. The instructions say to encase the raw edges of the pocket in the fold of the bias tape. But to tell you the truth, I haven't been able to master that skill yet. As you can see, I sew one side, then fold the tape over the raw edge, and then edge stitch on the right side, which will then hopefully catch the bias tape on the back side. If you have a favorite way of applying bias tape, please share it in the comments. I am still on the search for figuring out the best way to, and the easiest way to apply it. Let's learn from each other. After the bias tape has been applied to all edges of the pockets, top stitch the pocket to the apron. For my handy pockets, I folded the scallop edge down, pressed, and then stitched 3 sides of the pocket, stitching the sides of the folded edge down to the pocket fronts, instead of letting them be free to flap up and down. Now it's time to attach the long straps and back yoke to the main pattern piece. This is the only part where you will sew the fabric pieces right sides together. Also, pay attention to the dots indicating where the stitching begins and ends, because at the waist, the bottom of the straps will be flappy. They will be sewn later. So don't let that throw you for a loop. Now it's time to sew the bias tape onto 3 sides of the back straps, and since I was there, I decided I'd go ahead and sew it onto the ties as well. After the bias tape is applied to the strap, you sew it onto the yoke, wrong sides together. The seam allowance should be facing outward because it will be enclosed in bias tape at a later step. Before applying the bias tape to the top edges of the apron, you'll trim away the seam allowance of the inner straps. At this point, things got a little trickier for me in applying the bias tape because of the curves and the mitered corners. I'm pretty sure I have the regular mitered corners down, but the inside mitered corners in the Sweetheart neckline really required me to watch a lot of YouTube videos, which is why I don't have a tutorial. It's still a little ugly on the inside, but the outside looks okay. You'll know that I have finally mastered it when I have a tutorial on how to do the inside corners up on my channel. Okay, so now we're getting to the home stretch. Next, it's time to sew the flappy part of the front strap to the apron skirt. And the waist tie is wrong sides facing each other to the sides of the apron. Pay attention to markings since the tie will be close to the corner to the back strap, and you'll have to go around the corner with the bias tape. So it could be kind of crowded if you don't pay attention to those markings. Apply the binding to the apron skirt. I suggest you do it when you're alert and not tired. And that's all I'm going to say about that. Catch the seam allowances in the binding. And then finally, it's time for the buttonholes and the buttons. I chose to put a couple of buttons on the pockets because I like how they look. And there you have your own 1940s inspired apron that is better than any store-bought apron or plastic wrap that has been stuck to your clothes. Your apron will last for years and won't end up in a landfill after just one use. And here's a look at my finished apron. I'm standing in front of our little patch of California wildflowers that the mister planted from a packet of seeds last fall. I love all of the charming vintage details and the retro-inspired fabric. But what I love even more is that it's also practical and sustainable. As I elevate my look and create my vintage-inspired wardrobe, it will protect my clothes while cooking or cleaning, and I'll do it in style. So let's take a look at the pros and cons of this apron pattern. First, the pros. This is a fairly easy apron to make. The hardest part is the inside mitered corner, but don't let that scare you. It's an apron. If it's not perfect the first time you make this apron, it's okay. Another thing is it's an instant download apron, so you don't have to go anywhere or wait for it to arrive in the mail. You print it out on either 8.5 by 11 or A4 paper, and the tiles have excellent markings to make sure everything is aligned. Just be aware that you'll use a lot of tape to put it together. It's also very easy to make adjustments to the pattern. I have dotted paper pattern and was able to simply slash and spread the pattern and insert the dotted paper without impacting the look of the pattern. This is a semi-con, but it's also a pro. It uses a lot of bias tape. It's a great pattern if you're wanting to learn and practice using this type of finishing. And if you want to make your own bias tape, which I recommend, you'll need to add on the time it takes to make the tape to your planning process. This isn't really a make in a couple of hours project, but it isn't onerous either. As I've mentioned, for my needs, the pockets are too small and seem like they're more for decoration than anything. But that's easily remedied. That's easily remedied by substituting another pocket pattern. The pocket pattern that I created is available to my Patreon subscribers at the Elegant Circle as part of their membership in the Modern Retro Woman community. So if you're ready to take your personal presentation to the next level by incorporating timeless vintage sewing and timeless charm school advice into your everyday life, I invite you to click on the subscribe and notification buttons to make sure you know when new videos arrive. And also be sure to check out the other Modern Retro Woman resources that are listed in the description. And let the YouTube algorithm know that it should share this video with kindred spirits by clicking the like button and sharing it with your friends. If you'd like a copy of the pocket pattern, I invite you to join the Modern Retro Woman Patreon community. Members at the Elegant Circle level receive the pocket pattern and other exclusive goodies. And as always, I want to thank all of the members of the Modern Retro Woman Patreon community for your support. I appreciate it deeply. And finally, if you're interested in the mock-up video, click on this button right here. For now, I'm Dr. Julie Ann McFadden from Modern Retro Woman. Have a fabulous Technicolor day. Bye now.